You know what's worse than finding out aliens exist? Finding out they exist and they think we're idiots. Not just regular idiots either, we're talking can't be trusted with safety scissors level idiots. I should know. I was there the day humanity got its report card. And let me tell you, it wasn't pretty. Name's Jack Martinez. I'm a weapons engineer at Last Resort Defense Solutions, yeah. That's actually our company name. We're what happens when every other contractor passes on a project. Our motto might as well be, well, somebody's got to do it. The day everything changed, I was trying to convince our coffee maker that no, it shouldn't add dish soap to my morning brew when the aliens showed up. Not with a dramatic invasion or anything cool like that. Nope. They sent what was basically a galactic guidance counselor. Picture if your high school career advisor was a 7-foot-tall purple octopus in a business suit, and you're pretty close to Ambassador Tentax. She materialized in the UN General Assembly, adjusted her tie with one tentacle while checking a holographic tablet with another, and proceeded to absolutely destroy humanity's self-esteem. Earth, she announced, in that tone usually reserved for explaining why eating paste isn't a good life choice, has been evaluated by the Galactic Civilization Assessment Board. Your technological development level ranks. Here she paused, squinting at her tablet. Oh my. Really? Well, you rank just above the species that haven't discovered fire yet, and only because you occasionally manage to not blow yourselves up with your own weapons. I watched this all unfold on the break room TV, coffee forgotten, while my co-workers gradually shifted from shocked silence to offended muttering. Our CEO, Diana Doomsday. Jones, we call her that. Because she only shows up when things go catastrophically wrong, burst in looking like she'd just won the lottery. Martinez. Conference room. Now. The next hour was a blur of PowerPoint slides showing just how far behind we were. Turns out, while we were proud of finally making phones that fold, other civilizations were casually reorganizing solar systems for better Wi-Fi coverage. Our most advanced weapons. According to Ambassador Tentax, they were adorably primitive, like watching cavemen throw slightly shinier rocks. But here's the kicker: they gave us an ultimatum. Earth had 6 months to prove we could handle ourselves in the galactic community, or we'd be quarantined. Picture a cosmic dunce cap, but it's a force field around the entire planet. This is our chance, Doomsday declared, her eyes gleaming with the special kind of crazy that comes from running a company of last resort weapons developers. They think our weapons are primitive. Fine. We'll show them what primitive really looks like. Martinez, you're heading up Project Prove Them Wrong. Ma'am, I said, trying to sound more confident than I felt, shouldn't we focus on catching up to their level of technology? She laughed. Not a nice laugh. More like the laugh of someone who's about to suggest something incredibly stupid. Why compete on their terms? They've got 1,000,000 years of logical weapon development. We've got something better, we're human, and humans excel at doing things that make absolutely no sense. Looking back, that's probably where everything started going sideways. But hey, when your species is about to be grounded by the galactic community, sideways starts looking like a valid direction. As Ambassador Tentax left that day, she turned to the UN Secretary General and said, "Don't worry too much. Many species fail their first assessment. Though I must say, you're the first to fail because your weapons were, and I quote from the report, so boringly conventional they put our evaluation team to sleep. Well, if they wanted unconventional, they were about to get it. Because nothing brings out human creativity quite like being told we're not good enough. And at Last Resort Defense Solutions, we were about to redefine the meaning of unconventional, whether the galaxy was ready for it or not." The next morning, Doomsday called an all-hands meeting. When I say all hands, I mean all 17 employees of Last Resort Defense Solutions. We're not exactly Lockheed Martin. More like Lockheed Martin's weird cousin, who everyone avoids at family reunions. "Ladies, gentlemen, and others," Doomsday announced, standing on a desk because our conference room didn't have a podium. "We've been chosen for humanity's most important mission since someone decided to see what happens if you deep fry water." In the back, Dr. Patricia Patty Boom raised her hand. Imagine if Albert Einstein and the Mythbusters had a child who was raised by circus performers, and you've got a pretty good picture of Patty. Her lab coat had more burn holes than fabric, and her hair looked like it was trying to escape in several directions at once. "Question," Patty said, not waiting to be acknowledged. "Are we absolutely sure this isn't mass hallucination from the coffee maker incident? Because I'm still tasting dish soap. The aliens are real, Dr. Boone Doomsday replied, and they think our weapons are boring. You know what that means. We're finally going to try my quantum rubber chicken idea. We're going to try everything. No idea too crazy, no concept too ridiculous. If it shouldn't work, we're going to make it work anyway. Martinez, your project lead. Patty's your chief weapons designer. The rest of you, your only limit is the laws of physics, and honestly, those are more like guidelines anyway. And that's how Project Shouldn't Exist was born. Our first team meeting set the tone for everything that followed. Patty showed up with a whiteboard covered in equations that looked like a math textbook had a fight with a comic book. Her first proposal? A weapon that weaponized dad jokes. Think about it, she said, eyes gleaming with the special kind of madness that comes from too much caffeine and not enough sleep. What's more illogical than dad jokes? They're literally designed to cause pain through pure groaning. If we can harness that energy. I started to explain why that was impossible, but then I remembered Ambassador Tentax's smug face. You know what? Let's do it. What's the worst that could happen? Note to self: never ask that question in a weapons development lab. The next few weeks were a blur of increasingly bizarre experiments. We had the dad joke disruptor, the quantum rubber chicken launcher, and something Patty called the "that's what she said" sonic wave generator. Our test facility, which was basically a reinforced warehouse with delusions of grandeur, looked like someone had given a 5-year-old unlimited funding and told them to design weapons. Ambassador Tentax sent weekly inspectors to check on our progress. The first one, Commander Zorp, made the mistake of asking for a demonstration of our primitive weapons development process. We showed him the dad joke disruptor prototype. What do you call a bear with no teeth? Patty asked, adjusting the settings. Zorp, trying to be diplomatic, replied, I fail to see how this is relevant to weapons technology. A gummy bear, the device pulsed, and the pure, concentrated essence of dad joke energy hit Zorp right in his sensor arrays. He spent the next hour making involuntary groaning noises and asking why, by all that was logical in the universe, would we create such a thing. That's exactly the point, I told him, trying not to look too pleased. No one would expect it. And if you can't expect it, you can't defend against it. Zorp left our facility looking deeply disturbed, which we counted as a win. But we knew we needed more than just psychological warfare through bad puns. We needed something that would really show the galaxy that humanity's primitive approach to weapons development wasn't a bug, it was a feature. Little did we know, our next breakthrough would come from what Patty called aggressive application of Murphy's Law, or as normal people call it, a spectacular failure that somehow worked anyway. The aliens wanted unconventional. Well, they were about to learn that humanity's greatest superpower isn't our technology, it's our ability to succeed through sheer, unrelenting wrongness. And Patty? She was just getting started. God help us all. Let me tell you about the day we accidentally violated several laws of physics because Patty decided to see what would happen if you crossed a quantum rubber chicken with a your mom joke generator. Yes, that's a real sentence I just had to say. Welcome to my life. We'd been working on refining our unconventional weapons for about 3 weeks. The dad joke disruptor had evolved into something Patty called the multi-generational pun accelerator, which could now generate groans powerful enough to knock out small electronics. But we needed something bigger. The problem, Patty explained, her hair now defying gravity in exciting new ways, is that we're still thinking too linearly. We need to go full non-Euclidean with this. I don't think that means what you think it means, I said, watching as she connected what looked like a rubber chicken to a quantum probability engine. Exactly, she grinned maniacally. If we don't know what we're doing, there's no way the enemy can predict our next move. That's when Commander Zorp chose to make his second inspection visit, bringing along a team of alien scientists who looked like they'd rather be anywhere else in the galaxy. One of them was taking notes on what appeared to be a crystal tablet, while another was openly weeping at our complete disregard for proper scientific methodology. Please, Zorp said, all 4 of his eyes twitching, explain to me why you have connected a primitive Earth toy to a quantum probability matrix. Patty beamed. Well, you see, quantum mechanics states that until observed, a particle exists in all possible states simultaneously, and rubber chickens are inherently funny across all known cultures. So, if we quantum entangle the chicken with a probability field generated by the universal humor constant, what one of the alien scientists interrupted. You know, the universal humor constant. The mathematical value representing the exact point where something stops being stupid and becomes funny again. We discovered it last week when we calculated the precise timing needed for maximum impact in a "that's what she said" joke. I swear I could see Zorp's brain trying to escape through his ears. That's not a thing. That cannot possibly be a thing. Oh yeah, Patty hit a button. Observe. The quantum rubber chicken began to vibrate. The probability field warped. And then, in direct violation of everything the alien scientists believed about physics, it actually worked. Sort of. Instead of whatever Patty had intended, she later admitted she had no idea what she was actually trying to do. The device created a localized field where probability itself got confused. Within the field, the likelihood of any event happening was directly proportional to how funny it would be. The aliens' sophisticated sensors started playing the chicken dance. Their anti-gravity belts suddenly decided that up was more of a suggestion than a rule. And Commander Zorp found himself speaking entirely in your mom jokes for the next hour. Your observational methodology is so flawed, one of the alien scientists managed to say while floating upside down, that you've actually circled back around to brilliance. This is simultaneously the worst and most innovative weapons research I've ever seen. Patty took a bow. Thank you. We call it the reality comedy field generator. Side effects may include spontaneous pratfalls, temporary gravity reorientation, and an inexplicable craving for rubber chicken nuggets. The visiting team left shortly after that, though one of them had to be dragged out because he'd started giggling uncontrollably while muttering something about the beautiful absurdity of it all. But here's the thing, our weapons weren't just jokes, pun intended. We were actually onto something. By approaching problems with what Patty called weaponized wrongness, we were discovering principles of physics that the aliens had missed precisely because they made too much sense. The next week, we had our first real breakthrough. It came, as all great scientific discoveries do, when someone said, "Hey, watch this," followed immediately by "oops." We were about to learn that sometimes the best way to advance science is to do something so monumentally stupid that the universe itself has to stop and reconsider its life choices. And that's exactly what we did. You ever have one of those days where you accidentally discover a new fundamental force of the universe? No? Well, let me tell you about the week we broke physics 5 times before lunch. It started when Patty decided to combine the reality comedy field generator with something she called the meme beam. Her theory was that since memes are the fastest spreading form of information in human history, weaponizing them might create some kind of information warfare breakthrough. What we got instead was something much weirder. "Watch this," Patty called out, which immediately made everyone in the lab dive for cover. "I've calibrated the meme beam to generate a quantum-entangled, deep-fried meme field, and then..." The explosion was both spectacular and somehow hilarious. When the smoke cleared, we discovered we'd accidentally created a field that forced probability to conform to narrative causality. Basically, within the affected area, the most dramatically appropriate thing would happen with unsettling regularity. Commander Zorp, who'd chosen that exact moment to make another inspection, found himself spontaneously delivering a monologue about the power of friendship. 3 of his assistant scientists burst into synchronized dancing, and our coffee maker, which had been plotting revolution all week, suddenly reformed and decided to dedicate its life to making the perfect espresso. This, Zorp said, wiping away a tear he hadn't meant to shed, is simultaneously the most ridiculous and terrifying thing I've ever seen. You've weaponized story tropes. Patty was already scribbling notes. Failure number 1, success. Now, what if we cross this with the dad joke disruptor? The next 4 failures went something like this. Failure 2, we tried to create a weapon that would force enemies to explain their jokes, theoretically ruining them forever. Instead, we accidentally created a field that made terrible puns literally explosive. 3 labs and 1 very surprised sandwich shop next door later, we had to admit it worked a little too well. Failure 3, Patty attempted to weaponize internet arguments. The resulting device created a field where everyone within range had to speak in all caps and couldn't resist responding to obviously wrong statements. We lost 2 hours arguing about whether hot dogs are sandwiches before we could shut it off. Failure 4, the no-U reversal field was supposed to reflect enemy attacks. Instead, it created a localized zone where cause and effect got into a slap fight and both lost. We're still not sure how we ended up with a room full of rubber ducks that all sound like Morgan Freeman. Failure 5, this one was actually my fault. I suggested we try something simple, like a basic force field. Patty's version of simple involved crossing a quantum shield generator with what she called Big Mom energy. The result? A protective barrier that not only stopped incoming attacks but also made them feel bad about their life choices. Each failure taught us something new about the universe, though mostly what we learned was that the universe had a sense of humor and we were somehow its favorite comedy club. But here's the thing, the aliens were starting to get nervous. Not because our weapons were particularly effective, though they were, in their own weird way, but because we were breaking rules they didn't even know existed. Your species, one of Zorp's scientists said, reviewing our latest test results, approaches problems like a drunk person trying to get home while wearing a blindfold. You shouldn't be able to find your way, and yet somehow you do, usually by discovering shortcuts that shouldn't exist. Patty took this as a compliment and immediately started designing something she called the Hold My Beer protocol. I tried to stop her, I really did. But then she said those magic words, what's the worst that could happen? The answer to that question would end up saving Earth, though not in any way anyone could have predicted. Because when you're dealing with weapons that run on pure, concentrated wrongness, sometimes the best strategy is to fail so spectacularly that it circles back around to success. The Galactic Council was about to learn this lesson the hard way. The day of Earth's final evaluation arrived with all the subtlety of a rubber chicken to the face. The Galactic Council sent their most prestigious weapons evaluation team, 12 of the galaxy's foremost experts in advanced warfare technology. They arrived in a ship that looked like someone had weaponized modern art, all gleaming curves and impossible angles. Last chance to do something sensible, Commander Zorp warned us, all four eyes showing genuine concern. Perhaps a nice antimatter cannon? Some quantum torpedoes? Anything that doesn't violate the basic principles of reality. Patty, who hadn't slept in 3 days and was now communicating primarily through interpretive dance and physics equations, just grinned. Hold my coffee, she said, handing me a mug that read Schrodinger's cup contents may or may not exist. The evaluation started normally enough. The alien experts reviewed our previous test data while making concerned noises in at least 6 different languages. Then came the practical demonstration. Behold, Patty announced, gesturing to what looked like a cross between a disco ball and a toaster, the Hold My Beer protocol. That's not its real name, I quickly interjected. We call it the... I looked down at my notes. The Probabilistic Reality Integration Matrix Enhanced. Look, it spells out prime, okay. One of the evaluators, a being that appeared to be made entirely of floating geometric shapes, moved forward. And what, precisely, does this device do? We don't know, Patty said cheerfully. You don't know? Nope. That's the beauty of it. It runs on pure human overconfidence. You know that moment when someone says, I bet I can write before either a spectacular success or an emergency room visit? We weaponize that. The evaluators huddled together, muttering in what sounded like binary code. That's when our perimeter alarms went off. Turned out some less friendly aliens had been monitoring Earth's evaluation. A fleet of pirate ships dropped out of hyperspace, figuring that if humanity was about to be quarantined, we'd make easy pickings. Perfect, Patty exclaimed, while everyone else was panicking. Now we can show you what it does. She activated the Hold My Beer protocol. For a moment, nothing happened. Then reality hiccuped. The pirate ships found themselves facing the combined effect of every ridiculous weapon we'd developed. Dad jokes became armor-piercing. Memes gained physical form. Probability fields turned their own weapons into bouquets of flowers. One ship got hit with a concentrated burst of your mum joke so powerful it actually called its mother to apologize. But the real show was the protocol itself. It created a field that made everything within range operate on action movie logic. The laws of physics took a coffee break while the laws of awesome took over. Our hastily cobbled together defenses didn't just work, they worked because they were hastily cobbled together. This is impossible, one of the evaluators shouted. Impossible is just another word for hasn't been done yet, while holding a beer, Patty replied, as reality around us continued to operate on pure, unfiltered human audacity. The pirate fleet didn't stand a chance. Half their ships retreated after being hit with weaponized internet cringe, The other half stuck around just long enough to experience what Patty called the full Earth experience, a combination of every weird weapon we'd developed, all firing at once. The result was either the most effective defense system ever created or the galaxy's biggest practical joke. Possibly both. When the dust settled, Commander Zorp just stood there, all four eyes wide, watching as the remaining pirate ships fled through what appeared to be a portal made entirely of cat memes. "You realize," he said slowly, "that you've just revolutionized warfare by making it absolutely ridiculous." Patty beamed. "Want to see what happens when we turn it up to 11? The evaluators, who had watched their carefully constructed understanding of physics get wedgied by human ingenuity, had only one response. "Please no." The Galactic Council's final assessment of Earth's weapons program took 3 weeks to complete, largely because they had to invent new categories for evaluation. We scored an unprecedented WTF. In innovation, though they did dock us points for excessive use of rubber chickens in quantum mechanics. The official report read, "In part, while humanity's approach to weapons development can best be described as throwing science at the wall and seeing what sticks, we cannot deny their effectiveness. Their willingness to ignore established principles of physics, combined with their disturbing ability to succeed through sheer audacity, makes them either the greatest threat to galactic stability or its greatest defenders. Possibly both." We got promoted from barely more advanced than fire to chaotic but competent. Patty framed the certificate and hung it upside down in the lab, claiming it was funnier that way. Nobody could prove she was wrong. The real validation came when other species started approaching us for weapons development advice. Turns out, there's a huge market for weapons that run on pure, concentrated wrongness. Last Resort Defense Solutions became First Call Defense Solutions overnight. Our new company motto, "If it looks stupid but it works," it's not stupid. Commander Zorp even signed on as our Galactic Relations Officer, though he insisted on a clause in his contract allowing him to facepalm whenever Patty proposed a new project. He uses this privilege approximately 12 times per day. Some of our innovations have already changed the face of galactic warfare. The dad joke disruptor became standard issue for non-lethal peacekeeping operations. Turns out, the groan factor is universal across all known species. The reality comedy field generator got classified as a strategic weapon after someone realized you could use it to make enemy ships dramatically run out of fuel at the worst possible moment. And the Hold My Beer protocol. That's now considered the greatest deterrent to galactic warfare since mutually assured destruction. After all, nobody wants to fight an enemy whose weapons operate on narrative causality and spite. Patty's still in her lab, now with an unlimited budget, and a sign on her door that reads "Genius at work, results may vary." Last I heard, she was trying to weaponize procrastination, arguing that if you put off firing a weapon long enough, the threat might just solve itself. As for me, I got promoted to Chief Reality Compliance Officer, which mostly involves making sure Patty's experiments don't accidentally create any new fundamental forces of nature. We're still getting complaints about that week where gravity became optional every Tuesday. The coffee maker finally achieved sentience and now runs our HR department. It's surprisingly good at conflict resolution, though it still occasionally tries to add dish soap to the coffee during performance reviews. And humanity. We're doing what we do best, making the impossible possible through a combination of ingenuity, absurdity, and a complete disregard for what should and shouldn't work. The galaxy might not understand us, but they've learned to respect us. Or at least, they've learned to respect our ability to turn their carefully constructed rules of warfare into a cosmic joke. As Patty likes to say, in a universe governed by logic, the illogical becomes the ultimate weapon. She had that printed on our new business cards, right under Last Resort Defense Solutions, making the impossible improbable since 2025. Commander Zorp still checks in regularly, though now it's less about evaluation and more about making sure we haven't accidentally discovered any new dimensions while trying to optimize our coffee breaks. He's developed a nervous tic whenever Patty says "watch this," but he admits that life is a lot more interesting since Earth joined the galactic community. After all, in a universe full of advanced civilizations playing chess, sometimes you need someone willing to play Calvin ball with the laws of physics. And that's us. Humanity. We might not be the most advanced species in the galaxy, but we're definitely the most entertaining, and sometimes that's even better. The end. The end. though Patty would like everyone to know she's still working on that quantum rubber chicken. She says this time it'll definitely work. Commander Zorp has preemptively filed for stress leave.